Motorcycles can be a great source of pride for the avid rider, but on the other side of the same coin, they can be the cause of otherworldly embarrassment. What is probably the pinnacle of the two-wheeled embarrassment iceberg is dropping your bike. I'm not talking about a real crash. A real crash at speed may be cause for some embarrassment after the fact when you realize all the things you could have done differently to prevent it, then taking the time to physically heal and repair your bike, all while your buddies are out there enjoying the season. In the moment, a serious crash is pretty scary. And in the moments following a serious crash, the combination of fear, pain, and adrenaline eclipses any potential embarrassment. But after a low-speed tip-over, when your bike decides to take a little nap in the parking lot, you're certain to experience a significant amount of embarrassment. Pretty much every rider will tip their bike while stopped or doing a slow-speed maneuver at least one time in their life. They have two wheels, they just like to tip over sometimes. There are a handful of reasons your bike may decide to go belly up, your kickstand may not be fully down when you get off the bike, your shoelace may get caught on the foot peg when you go to put your foot down at a stop, or you may just misjudge your balance during a slow speed turn as a new rider in the parking lot. It's kind of a bummer how the parking lot becomes a bit of an amphitheater, doesn't it? Every rider knows that feeling of when a bike begins to fall and it reaches the point where it just leaned too far over and the weight of the bike just becomes too much to prevent it from falling. It usually happens so slowly that the moment never feels like it's actually ending. It's falling further. You're trying to hold it up, you're holding it, it's falling, and then you realize your futility and just step back and watch as your baby comes crashing down and makes those awful plastic noises on the ground. These moments are embarrassing because they're totally avoidable. All it took is a lapse of judgment or a moment of distraction to end up dropping your bike like this. The worst part about these drops is that they always happen in parking lots when other people are around. The embarrassment is compounded if you've been doing a bit of showboating previously. Maybe you were revving your engine or doing something to attract attention, then once the eyes are upon you, you bend your bike and look like a total noob. A lot of times a slow speed drop is followed by this second embarrassing fail. If you're already fueled by so much adrenaline from dumping your bike that you pick it up with zero proper form, essentially lifting the bike with just one hand with the strength of a mother trying to save her baby from a burning car, you're usually pretty frazzled. So once the bike is back upright, you press the ignition to fire up the engine in order to leave the scene of the crime as quickly as possible before your likeness imprints in the minds of the eyewitnesses, cementing your identity as the total noob on the Ninja 400 who dropped their bike at the gas station in their memories. But when you press the ignition, nothing happens. You immediately panic, thinking that something was knocked loose when the bike fell over. But in reality, either your kill switch got switched to the off position, or your side stand is still down, or your bike is still in gear, or you didn't pull in the clutch. All of which can prevent the bike from starting depending on varying safety systems your bike may be equipped with. This happens to pretty much every rider, even if you didn't drop the bike previously. Anytime there's a change in your routine and you're not thinking clearly, you can experience that moment of panic when your bike doesn't turn over. I feel like this always happens when you're riding with other people too. Maybe you stopped off for some lunch with some buddies during a ride, you rolled into a parking lot with the clutch pulled in, and you shut the bike off and before putting in neutral. When you go to leave, if you don't realize you left your bike in gear or your bike refuses to start, some bikes won't start in gear even with the clutch pulled in. Other bikes will start while in gear and just lurch forward and stall immediately, which is equally embarrassing in its own right. I certainly think a lot of us out there have had the situation where we turn on our bike, put it into gear, and then it immediately just dies because the kickstand is still down. Most new bikes come with some sort of electronic rider aid, and if you're coming from an older bike that doesn't have things like a quick shifter or traction control, you can definitely have some embarrassing moments. When bikes have a simple TC system, which essentially just cuts ignition and stops power to the rear wheel when it detects tire slip, there's a bit of a learning curve to figure out how sensitive the different levels of interference are. And when you're not expecting it under hard acceleration, even a temporary ignition cut can send your body lurching forward, smashing your sweet nether regions into the tank. I think everybody who rides a bike with traction control will experience that at least one time. Depending on how fast you're going, that brief ignition cut that causes your body to lurch forward is definitely noticeable to other people on the road. Similarly, the first time using a quick shifter can lead to some embarrassing moments. As we get more and more less expensive motorcycles coming with quick shifters, I feel like the more clunky and rudimentary they're becoming. I don't know why it just feels terrible doing those downshifts. So some of these quick shifters require super heavy input on the shift lever in order to operate fully. If you press the lever too lightly, it will cut ignition, but not actually shift up or down into the proper gear. So if you're accelerating hard, press up on the lever too lightly, it'll cut ignition, but not actually slip into the next gear. Similarly, if you're trying to downshift and press the lever too lightly, it will cut ignition but not slip down a gear. Those moments can be super jarring if you're not expecting it, causing a super choppy transition between throttle, cut ignition, and incorrect gear position. Worst case scenario, you can botch a shift, ignition will be cut, and then come back on with wide open throttle in the same gear. And the abrupt throttle input can cause the rear wheel to slip and engage traction control, which will cut the ignition again. If you're not used to riding a bike with tech like this, there can definitely be a learning curve that can lead to some embarrassing moments. You can also be embarrassed in your motorcycle career not by any improper riding techniques, but by buying the wrong bike for your needs or just getting outright ripped off. It can happen to any rider. You get excited about a new bike launch, or you run out and put your deposit down, and when the bike arrives, you go to finalize the paperwork, you see the dealer has tacked on all sorts of extra fees. But you're already mentally committed to this bike, so you go through with the deal anyways. And the next thing you know, you paid $13,000 out the door financed for an R7, and you're still slower than your buddies on 600s. You paid $300 a month for insurance because it's required on your loan, and you could have bought a used MT-07 for $5,000 cash. This can go any number of ways. Maybe you fell for the fast boy propaganda and paid through the nose for a leader bike. Then after a season of riding, you realize you can only use a fraction of the power the bike makes, and it's really not even that fun to ride. Or maybe you were convinced that you wanted a dual sport, but then realized it's actually nice to be able to go freeway speeds for more than 5 minutes at a time. It might not be as embarrassing as dropping your bike in front of a crowd of people, but it definitely sucks to know you have a bunch of money tied up in a bike that you're not totally in love with. It's always advisable to ride as many bikes as you can before you make a big financial decision. See if a local dealership allows test rides on used bikes, or attend a manufacturer demo day, or maybe rent a bike on one of the varying motorcycle rental apps before you make a big purchase. Kind of like dating a lot before you settle down. You don't want to marry the first girl you go out with. Having a lot of money tied up in a bike that isn't the ideal bike for you is embarrassing in its own right, but it can lead to even more embarrassment when you trade it into the dealer and lose even more money on it, just because you're ready to move on to something else.
All right, if you told me that I would have 2 yellow giveaway bikes for 2024, I don't think I had that on my bingo card, honestly. But this is our Cosmic Yellow Street Triple 765 RS. This is our new giveaway bike on yammynoob.co. Become a member for your best chance to win. You can stack up your entries, assign them to this giveaway bike, and then we do more giveaway bikes. You can do that as well. You get access to the Discord server, exclusive content, discounts on merch, and so much more. Head over to the website and do not miss your chance to win this machine.
Now, wheelies can be cool, but they definitely require some skill and finesse. And for every one cool wheelie, there's a lot of embarrassing wheelie fails. Even if you've been practicing on your Grom and empty parking lots for months, the likelihood of you failing miserably during your first public wheelie is pretty high. The possibility of failures are endless. You could clutch up with too much gas and loop yourself backwards. You could dump your clutch with not enough gas and your bike just lurches forward. Or you could bring the bike up but panic and hammer the rear brake and slam the front back down, leading to a tank slapper. And the worst part about attempting wheelies in public is that they demand attention. The throttle input required to lift the front end means your bike's going to be revving high and causing everyone to look in your direction. And once you have their attention, there are really so many ways your wheelie can go awry and make you look like a total dork. Really, any sort of extreme riding technique that would feel compelled to do in order to impress other people, like wheelies or burnouts, presents a pretty high chance of embarrassment, so do proceed with caution. Every rider is going to run out of gas at some point. It just seems to be inevitable. I've run out of gas on road so many times, and I've even run out of gas on track. That was, weirdly enough, more embarrassing. Despite most modern bikes coming equipped with fuel gauges, or at the very least low fuel level warning lights, it's just something that happens. I don't know why. On bikes, you just run out of gas. Oftentimes, when a motorcycle runs out of gas, the rider's first thought is never, "Oh wow, I ran out of gas." It is, "Holy crap, my engine is broken." And then you'll coast to the side of the road, try to restart your bike and listen to it sputter a bit and stall back out. Once your panic subsides, you'll realize, oh duh, there's no gas in it. And then it's one of those rare moments in which having a carbureted bike actually works in your favor. If you run out of gas on a carb bike, you switch that petcock over to reserve and you can be on your way. Running out of gas on a fuel-injected bike takes a special kind of silliness, as you likely ignore the low fuel light telling you you're due for a fill-up, and as a result, you have to suffer a high degree of embarrassment. If you run out of gas on a fuel-injected bike with no petcock or reserve to get you further down the road, you'll have to either wait for someone to bring you gas or take the walk of shame to the nearest gas station to get a fuel canister. When waiting on the side of the road with your bike, you'll likely encounter a handful of well-meaning citizens who will ask if you need any help. Then you have to admit to them that you just ran out of gas, which is 100 times more embarrassing than being stranded due to some serious mechanical issue. There's nothing more disturbing than going off to ride on your motorcycle only to make it a few few inches before your bike comes to a screeching halt. Disc locks are great, and they can be a kind of necessity if you're leaving your bike unattended in urban areas. They're small, easily portable, and a great addition to your backpack or tail bag. They clamp onto your brake rotor, which deters theft in general, but also makes the bike unable to roll. They're so easy to use that they're definitely easy to forget to remove. And if you try to ride off with your disc lock still on, it is definitely going to startle you as you try to move the front wheel and it just refuses to move and the lock grinds against your caliper. Depending on how startled you are, you could even drop your bike if you're caught off guard. Forgetting to remove your disc lock can also damage your rotor or caliper if you're unlucky enough. The worst part is that this usually is going to happen in an area where other people are around, and there's nothing cool or graceful about trying to ride your bike with the disc lock still on. If you're lucky, your ego will be the only thing that gets damaged. Most disc lock users have forgotten to remove it at least once in their riding career. It's not the end of the world, but it certainly is embarrassing. Thanks for making it all the way to the end. Be sure to comment your most embarrassing motorcycle moments down below. I will be reading. Have you ever forgotten to put on your riding jeans and accidentally went to the riding group in your underwear? Sounds like a bit of a nightmare. This is the last one of these kind of videos for the year, so enjoy the holiday seasons, and I will catch you all in 2025. Fact: there are only 4 countries whose national anthems have no words: Spain, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Kosovo, and San Marino. Goodbye.
All right, everybody, this video is over. There's no more to watch on this beautiful video between me and you, but this Triumph Street Triple 765 RS is available on yammynoob.co as a giveaway bike. Hit that link while you're waiting for the next video to load. Become a member. It'll take you as easy as 1, 2, 3, and then you're signed up to win. How cool is that? Papa Yam's giving away 54 bikes. You could be the next one.